Cops of Reddit. What is the most what the heck happened here moment you've experienced? One time we got a call about a minor wreck in a highway corridor. We get there. I'm handling the accident. 100 yards down there is a car on flats. And another further down from that. Unrelated to the accident. One of the drivers walked back to us and told us a sketchy guy had been stopping at these cars to offer his help in fixing the flats. The theory was that he threw something on the road to flatten the tires so that he could help and get money from the drivers. I'm stuck at the back end of this mess. On the radio trying to get another unit to detain the shady guy. All of a sudden I look over and there's a guy in nothing but a hospital gown and an IV hanging out of his arm just tiddling along the shoulder. The nearest hospital was several miles away, so I have no idea how he covered that distance with nobody noticing. So here I am with 1. A car wreck. 2. A guy possibly flattening tires on purpose. And 3. An escaped hospital patient. All completely unrelated. On a major highway late at night. I found 3 kids one day running next to a busy highway. The oldest was 5. We finally got them identified and figured out they lived about a mile away. We got there. They were in the care of their adult, 20-ish, sister while their parents were on vacation for 2 weeks. The sister decided she'd rather pop Xanax and smoke weed than deal with the kids. So she locked them in their bedroom for about 10 days. Occasionally sliding food and water past the door. There were stains on the baseboards in the bedroom from where the kids had decided their bathroom should be. Finally the 5-year-old had enough and figured out how to unlock the bedroom window and make a break for it. That's nowhere near the darkest stuff I've seen. We don't like to talk about it. A friend of mine is a cop in the UK and his story is more WTF as he saw it unfold. But missed how it all started. It was his first week out on patrol and he was assigned to an experienced partner. They respond to a burglary in progress and are told that a nearby dog unit was on the scene already. When they arrive at the property they hear a commotion outside that's clearly between an officer and a suspect. And they open the garden gate to assist the dog unit. What they then witness is a suspect face down on the grass. An officer stamping on the suspect's back whilst holding his arm up near her hip and shouting "Stop resisting." And the police dog absolutely going to town on this guy's buttocks with his teeth. The suspect is, unsurprisingly, struggling and resisting and then ends up kicking the dog. The dog then latches onto the guy's leg. Starts ferociously tugging. Pulls it off and then runs towards the new cops on the scene with it. It turns out that was a false leg, which no one except the suspect knew at the time. And my buddy the cop said he just froze whilst trying to figure out how the hell he calls this in and whether or not he should retrieve the man's leg from the police dog. Hey Bruce. What's the code for dog ripped off suspect's leg again? Not me but my dad, but when he was on the road years back he got a call from a man saying he was locked in someone's closet. So he goes to the location of the call, which was a project housing unit, and knocks on the door. A man answered exclaiming, "I caught one. I caught one." My dad has absolutely no idea what this dude means until he opens up the closet and sees a dwarf tied up in the closet. Apparently the dwarf was going door to door for some organization, and when the psycho dude opened his door he thought he found a leprechaun and proceeded to catch it and throw it in his closet for safekeeping. This is my uncle's story, not a cop, but the call was sent to the fire department instead due to the strangeness. The truck was sent on a call for an unknown disturbance. Which basically means anything in the world. They get sent an address and that's pretty much it. Truck drives down the street looking for this address and they get to the end and all they can see is an abandoned lot with nothing but bushes. Even though they can't see anyone they have to get out and investigate, so my uncle and a couple of the guys get out of the truck and start walking around with the usual fire department call out. They didn't hear anything for a while and were about to pack it in as another pointless prank call when my uncle walked past a bush and heard rustling. He looks over and sees a man standing kind of awkwardly behind a bush. "Hey Mr. Fireman, did you call 911 Uncle Yes sir." My uncle steps a bit closer and realizes how man is naked and standing at a strange angle. He motions to another firefighter that he found the caller and goes behind the bush to begin assessing. He is a firefighter paramedic. That's when he realizes that the man has what he refers to, a refine bunny tail on his butt. Of course they try to get the man to explain why he had called in distress and what was going on. After a bit of avoidance, the man finally admits that he had taken a toilet brush cleaner and shoved the handle up his bum. Honestly, no idea why anyone would think this is a good idea generally. Being the enlightened individual that he is, he chose one with a hook on the end to hang up in a bathroom. What my uncle and the other firefighters assumed was that the hook had gotten stuck on something internally because they couldn't pull it out, and it caused the man significant discomfort when they tried. My uncle left the man with another firefighter, getting his information, and went back to the truck to call for an ambulance. Of course, at this point he always mentions that he walked around the truck to see the rest of the company trying to silently dive laughter out of view of the bushes. When the ambulance arrives, my uncle meets them with a grin on his face and tells them to brace themselves before walking them over to the bushes. They assess the man and conclude that there is no way for them to remove the toilet brush in the field and that they have to admit him to the hospital for surgery. The only problem was that they couldn't figure out how to get him into the gurney without causing him to move in a way that caused him more pain. They end up throwing a blanket over him and the firefighters help maneuver him into a sort of downward dog mountain position with his bum in the air to keep the toilet brush at the right angle. At that point my uncle decided that the fire department was done with the call and the paramedics could handle it from there, and loaded up the company onto the truck. As they began to drive away, he says they were loading this guy into the rig as we drove off, and the last I saw of him was that blanket falling off and that damn bunny tail of his sticking straight up in the air. Show up to a trouble unknown call. Teenage looking girl walks out the front door as I arrive and sits on a chair in the front listening to an iPod. This was pretty disarming for me. She was clearly not distressed at all from whatever the trouble unknown was. I didn't even disturb her as I knocked on the front door. I can see an adult male through the side glass by the door. He has a look of absolute terror. As he reaches the door, a crazed looking woman attacks him from behind, biting his shoulder like a zombie. I would later learn this is his wife. Holy crap. Dispatch. Give me the channel and get me more officers here now. I open the door and the fight is on. Pull this woman off and wrestle her to the ground. Face down. She's very small framed. Probably 5 feet and 100 pounds maximum. I'm a foot taller and 80 pounds heavier. She's screaming and flailing. I grab hold of her right arm, attempting to put it behind her back for handcuffing, but she is supernaturally strong for some reason. I've got both hands on her right wrist now trying to control her, and she's not giving at all. I try pain compliance, muscle gouges, anything to give me an advantage. No response. Still fighting. It felt like this was going on for a long time, but in reality it was a few minutes. Finally backup arrives, and he immediately goes to grab her left arm. Seeing what I'm trying to accomplish, I'm finally able to get a handcuff on her wrist and pin it to her back. And my partner cuffs the other wrist, but she slips out. Small frame, small hands, wrist. This happened a few times in a row. And finally, out of frustration, I yell, just clamp the cuff all the way down. We'll adjust it when she's under control. Finally get her cuffed, but she's still flailing and screaming. Other officers arrive at this point as well as paramedics. They're unable to assist her at all really. The husband tells us they bought some cheap weed from a sketchy dude in town, and after smoking it she flipped out. I assume it was laced with something. He said he smoked too but didn't have a reaction. So who knows? We had to drive this lady up to the hospital in a patrol car. She calmed down a little, but the entire ride she was rambling about nonsense. The hospital was prepared and had several large nurses waiting, and we got her strapped down to bed. I told the staff about the weed and said good luck. When my adrenaline was gone, my forearms were so sore. They felt like rocks from fighting with this tiny woman. Moral of the story: don't smoke shoe bought from the town crackhead. I used to be a cop. We got a call from a guy who claimed to be the victim of a robbery and was incapacitated in his home and had only just managed to reach his phone and call us. We arrived to a trailer home that was totally empty except for a man in hardcore fetish gear tied to some sort of swing. I mean, there was nothing else in this house except the guy tied to the swing. Nothing. No furniture. Not even curtains. Okay dude. What the hell? Guy, well you see. Officer. I hired 2 Asian hookers to spank me while I was in the swing. Nothing illegal there. Just some spanking and they'd leave. Well, the girls arrived. Tied me to the swing. Then 2 Asian guys showed up, beat the living shit out of me. Then pulled up a U-Haul trailer and stole literally everything that I own before leaving me hanging here with my cell phone because they said they knew nobody would believe my story anyways. But the cops would probably chase them for a murder. I still don't know if I believe his story. But never found any evidence to suggest that he was lying either. I just didn't find anything at all. As a brand new ER nurse, we had 2 police officers drop off a naked man bleeding from his groin area. We were informed he was not in custody, but they would be in the waiting room to arrest him when he was discharged. The city would have had to pay for his care if he was under arrest. The man refused to say anything without his lawyer, so all I knew was the chief complained I take off the towel. And the way the skin was ripped, I thought for sure a police dog was involved. I'll spare you the rest of the gory details. Someone manages to get the backstory out of the cops. Dude was in the shower when they arrived to arrest him on a meth charge. He runs and tries to hop over a chain link fence.